Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 in Accra, Love 99.5 in Kumasi. Affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Jubilee Radio Keta, Sun City Radio Keta, Saboba FM Saboba, and A1 Radio Bolgatanga. We are live on Twitter Spaces, Facebook live stream, and my Joy Online interactive app. The Midday News is sponsored by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. Coming up. The NPP's National Council of Elders assures of addressing concerns of all flag bearer aspirants and ensure an equal playing field ahead of the upcoming Super Delegates Congress as it holds a crunch meeting this afternoon.
I don't think that I would subscribe to that allegations. Quite obviously, in the lead up to these things, a lot of allegations are always made. But at the end of the day, a solution is found as to how to proceed.
We'll take you live to the Alisa Hotel where that crucial meeting is taking place. Also, deaths, hanging homes, unbearable traffic, and bad roads. The troubles residents of New Botiano have to endure as the rains continue to pour trauma on them.
It's very, very dangerous. When the rain is falling, hard one or heavy one, they fall.
What if someone comes to move the ladder one day?
Then I will stay here till when I get a new ladder.
We'll tell you how some of them are only able to access their homes using a ladder. Also, we'll hear how fire killed 9 in the Ashanti region in the first half of this year. Also in this package, food insecurity expected to persist in 2023 as about 850,000 Ghanaians pushed into poverty due to inflation.
Unless we are self-sufficient in food production, we will continue to have problems with rising food price and inflation.
Details as a World Bank report reveals that fertilizer prices in Ghana have risen even more rapidly than on the global level. And in sports,
3 games in and Chris Houghton is already under pressure. We'll hear from the FA in 20 minutes.
And the Attorney General urges High Court to restrain mining company from dragging Ghana to an international arbiter to demand payment of $300 million. We have details, and later on Showbiz, there's some new music from the camp of Patapa.
And the tar na gamachi did him out. America say idea warrior and for semi say me fan channel na yama kumim into ajita sakwade na no wife wo hye won kaka na de wambo amane ichia edi tei wanti ana.
We've got details of these and more here on the Midday News. Thanks for choosing us. Joy News, independent, fearless and credible. I'm Bernice Abubeidulansa, and this is your election headquarters. The NPP's National Council of Elders is assuring flag bearer aspirants of addressing their concerns, mainly about the register to be used for the Super Delegates Congress. The National Executive Committee has been busy finalizing the list for the Super Delegates Congress expected to take place on August 26. Several aspirants have raised objections to the party's process of cleaning the Special Electoral College register. An aspirant, Kwabne Japan, says he expects the National Executive Council to resolve these concerns ahead of the Congress.
This register that elected the national executives and the regional executives. That's what is happening there. Because some may have been appointed from the polling station to become even a deputy officer at the constituency level. So he's moved. We don't want you to replace him there, because if you do so, we don't know how you're going to do that. And it lends itself to manipulation. So we want a very transparent and clear process. So,
but ahead of the National Council meeting, is your expectation that that will resolve the challenges? That
hopefully it should. Hopefully, because we are very close to August 26th.
Kwabne Japan there, he's hoping to be the NPP's flag bearer in the 2024 elections. He was speaking to head of our political desk, Evans Mensah. Well, still on the story, Deputy General Secretary of the party, Haruna Mohammed, tells Joy News the party's leadership will involve the aspirants after a decision is taken by the National Executive Council today.
At the time we started, we did not open even nominations for aspirants to pick forms.
So after now they've been vetted, and we're waiting for the bigger body to take a decision on the vetting committee's report. Post that.
Yes, they will be informed. They are very critical stakeholders in this election, and we intend to have a very clean and transparent election. We've just started with Greater Accra region. We've attended to almost all the constituencies.
Haruna Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. The party's Council of Elders Chairman, Hackman Owusu-Agyemang, says aspirants must trust that the leadership will take good decisions that will ensure an even playing field.
We will listen to, the National Council will listen to everybody. We have rules of procedure and to be applied. The previous one that we did was at various centers. If the council decides that for one reason or the other, we should maintain the status quo or change, it lies in their bosom to do that. So I don't think that anything is going to be done to favor anybody. What the rules of the game is that it should be absolutely clean, fair, transparent, and without any favor to anybody. So I don't think that I would subscribe to that allegations. Quite obviously, in the lead up to these things, a lot of allegations are always made. But at the end of the day, a solution is found as to how to proceed to the satisfaction of everybody. The last time we had the elections here for the national officers, there were all sorts of allegations. It happened and people were surprised at the results that came. So really, I don't think that neither the party per se or the National Council of Elders or anybody for that matter.
Hackman Owusu-Agyemang is chairman of the NPP's Council of Elders. Let's now head to the Elisa Hotel where there's a meeting of the National Council of Elders of the NPP. My colleague Samuel Imbura is there for us. What's the latest, Samuel?
Dennis, so after the vetting committee submitted its report to the National Council, which is the second highest decision-making body in the party, through the General Secretary Justin Frimpong-Kodia, the National Council, per the hierarchy of the NPP, is mandated to table the recommendations before the National Executive Council, which is the final decision-making body, to deliberate, confirm the report, and give direction on the elections, but not limited to only the Superdelegates Congress. As we already know, some of the flag bearer aspirants are demanding fairness in the election process after the party's General Secretary, Frimpong-Kodia, mentioned in an interview he granted us earlier that they were cleaning it. So this meeting with the final decision-making body of the NPP will address the issue and also consider issues surrounding the holding of the Superdelegates Congress slated for August 26 as to whether it will be centralized or decentralized. However, as we speak now, the meeting hasn't started and we are still pitching camp. I guess 5 minutes ago, I saw the National Communications Director of the NPP, Richard Ahiagba, arriving and getting to the venue to assessing the situation on the ground. But as we speak, the National Executive Council members and the National Council members of the party have not arrived yet.
We'll leave it here. Samuel Imbura, he's a member of our political desk and he's currently monitoring the meeting of the National Council of Elders of the NPP. We'll touch base with him later to get you the details. But we know the party has already opened nominations for orphan parliamentary constituencies. The following report you're about to hear looks at some fresh faces who've joined the race.
People are saying that they've had male representation.
The Adentan seat is a tricky one, but Akosua Sam Menu wants to reclaim it for the NPP. The 40-year-old is currently a deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority and enjoys the support of a good number of young people in the party. Despite knowing well that his seat is one that swings, she is confident of reclaiming it from the NDC's Adamu Ramadan.
So if you look at what goes against candidates, you would be doing the developmental work, but if they're not seeing you in community engagement or interacting with people, be it monthly or quarterly, whatever arrangement you have, it works against you.
The story is different at the Ayinswano constituency. The NDC currently holds the seat, but the NPP had since 2000 won the seat till it lost it in 2020.
I come from a constituency called Ayinswano, where I was born.
Entertainment critic, talent show judge, and music producer, who is now a deputy minister for tourism, arts and culture, Mark Okreku Mante is in the race.
I was called, I was motivated, influenced by some people in the constituency. I did my own SWOT analysis, whether I have enough energy to go forward. It is not easy to take this decision. It is not.
He believes he can reclaim the seats.
We are not underrating 2024. We are not. The slogan or the jargon making the eight, we understand the gravity of what we are going in for.
Well, journalist and communications consultant Jefferson Saki wants to be the MPP's candidate in Ablekuma Central.
Many years of working with somebody you admire and who has mentored you, working with the then Foreign Minister Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in the foreign ministry, resigning from the foreign ministry and joining him on the political campaign trail.
A seat that could well be described as one that swings, but is not perturbed.
If we have a candidate who is able to cross beyond the borders of the new patriotic party into the NDC, I think we should be able to get some numbers and then win the seat. I can assure you that in the 2024 election, we are going to turn Ablekuma Central from green to blue.
Only time will tell which of these new faces will be successful in this internal contest.
Joseph Akable of our political desk put that report together. To some other stories, food insecurity is expected to persist in 2023 as about 850,000 Ghanaians have been pushed into poverty due to rising prices of food and a decrease in the income of Ghanaian households. The World Bank, in a report titled Price Surge, Unraveling Inflation's Toll on Poverty and Food Security, reveals that as food prices continue to climb, many Ghanaians will struggle to procure food to meet their dietary needs or satisfy their food preferences for an active and healthy life. My colleague Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson joins me in the studio to share some details of that report. Mami, first, tell us what exactly is contributing to food insecurity according to the report.
So, Benes, the World Bank is reporting that high inflation has exacerbated poverty and food insecurity. At the height of the COVID pandemic, nearly 3 out of 4 Ghanaian households experienced a decrease in their incomes. It further stated that by the last quarter of 2022, a quarter of the population was deemed food insecure. This means people were lacking regular access to enough and safe and nutritious food for normal growth and development and an active and healthy lifestyle. And the rate is expected to persist late into this year. This is due to muted economic growth, minimum wage adjustments that have been insufficient to cover the inflation and has led to the erosion of living standards for the population as a whole, but especially the poor. Benes.
Interesting. The report also indicates that fertilizer prices in Ghana have risen even more rapidly than what's at the global level.
Indeed. And you know that in Ghana, 99% of fertilizers are imported. It says nearly 3 out of 4 households interviewed in the Food Security and Nutrition Monitoring System survey indicated that the prohibitive cost of fertilizers was one of the main problems faced by farmers in the 2022 planting season. Up to June 2021, fertilizer prices in Ghana were aligned to international prices. However, in the second half of the year, fertilizer prices in Ghana rose even more rapidly, while global prices were stabilized. Benes.
Thanks, Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson, there with details of that World Bank report. Meanwhile, Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, Professor Peter Quartey, says we will continue to have these problems and inflation if we're not self-sufficient in food production.
What is going to happen is that inflation will continue to increase if we don't do something, because now the threat from Russia Ukraine war is going to bite more, and if we don't invest more in agriculture, then we are likely to have challenges. It's good the rains have been good this year, and therefore expect food production to go up. But we are not food sufficient. We are not self-sufficient. We import a lot of rice. We import a lot of tomatoes and onions from Burkina. We don't just import from the west. We also import from the sub-region. Tomato, onion from Burkina, and even rice from other African countries. African countries as well as from Asia. So unless we are self-sufficient in food production, we will continue to have problems with rising food price and inflation.
Professor Peter Quartey is Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. Now, the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has urged an Accra High Court to restrain mining company Cassius Mining from dragging Ghana to an international arbiter. The company is seeking payment of $300 million. It alleges Ghana has breached its rights under a prospecting license granted the company in the Upper East region. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akablay joins us with more. Joseph, first of all, just help us understand the nature of this dispute.
So the current dispute centers mainly around the license that was granted the company and the agreement the state reached with it in terms of how this agreement should be resolved. The Attorney General holds the view that per the terms of the agreement, it should be by arbitration under Ghana's Alternative Dispute Resolution Act. The company filed for arbitration at the Ghana Arbitration Center, but also dragged Ghana to the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Ghana objected and the court held that it could not proceed since the parties have not agreed to have a deal with the matter. The company nonetheless has initiated steps to head to a different forum, which has caused the AG to seek an injunction from the High Court here in Ghana.
And what's the company's view of this entire process?
The company thinks the injunction application is irregular in that the rules allow for such an application to be made to the courts when the case is an urgent one and the application should be one aimed at preserving evidence or assets. And because the AG's request does not seek to do any of this, it should be turned down. The High Court here in Ghana will rule on the matter on July 31 to determine whether to grant or dismiss the AG's request to restrain the company from proceeding to another international forum.
Thanks, Joseph. Joseph is our legal affairs correspondent. This is the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM, brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited and Water Tank. The Lands and Natural Resources Committee in Parliament is demanding the Lands Ministry disclose in full the agreement it entered into with the private land reclamation firm Anyok Holding. According to the committee, the full disclosure will address the many inconsistencies it has identified. On Monday, July 17, MP for Tamale North Alhassan Suhini accused government of engaging the services of land guards for the retrieval and protection of government lands. He made the allegation based on statements he says were made by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Professor Patrick Agbesinyale, during a meeting with the committee. The Chief Director is fighting back. Listen to him when he appeared before Public Accounts Committee of Parliament.
Mr. Chairman, I take a very strong exception to that reportage, actually. It's absolutely not true. We don't use land guards. We use the official security forces services to reclaim government land if need be.
The news out there is that you said something. You're saying that you haven't said it. What did you say that they misinterpreted?
What exactly I said was that the ministry since 2012 had contracted a company called Anyok Holdings, and this company actually is engaged in reclaiming land for government. I can't imagine me saying that government uses land guards, to reclaim land. That cannot be possible.
Chief Director, who is a land guard?
I don't know. With the deepest respect, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what
you are using land guard. We all know land guard. So I'm asking you, define land guard. You are using an agency to protect the land. Is that agency not guarding the land, so become a land guard? If you mention land guard within the context of Ghana, we all know what it means. We cannot attribute that to our respectable, security agencies. It's unfair. And I personally take a very strong exception to that because I never mentioned this term land guard in my submission to the committee.
You heard the Chief Director of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Professor Patrick Agbesi Nyale. He was having an interaction with members of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee. Still on this matter, according to the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, Ayonk Holding has succeeded in reclaiming over 6,000 acres of land for the state. But the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhini, who is also a member of the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, says there are more questions to be answered. He spoke on the AM show on Joy News.
All we want is the contract that they have entered into with this gentleman. So we can study the terms and conditions of that contract. Ever since this issue became a public discussion, there have been a number of inconsistencies from the ministry. The ministry issued a statement signed by the same chief director and made the claim that they have a contract with Enoch Holdings Limited. But if you check at the Registrar General Department, Jato is actually a director of Enoch Holdings Limited. So he said they have a contract with Enoch Holdings Limited and that this contract has been in existence since 2012. Take note, since 2012. A check again at the Registrar General's Department shows that Enoch Holdings Limited was registered on 1st September 2014.
There's some disparity there.
There's some inconsistency there.
So per your checks, what exactly does Enoch Holdings do again? Just to clarify.
So many things. There's actually a deputy minister in charge of lands. In fact, that deputy minister is supposed to be chairing a committee that is responsible for the reclamation of government lands. And in that committee, interestingly, this same Jato guy is a member representing private sector. Interesting things at the ministry.
That's MP for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhini, who was responding to questions posed to him by Benjamin Akakpo on the AM show on Joy News. Speaking on the same show, his colleague MP for Anyang Sotum, Dixon Adumaku Kisi, said government should act swiftly on the matter.
If government cannot secure his own lands, then we're in trouble as a nation. That is chaotic. And it just shows how indisciplined maybe some of us are in this country, where government will put a notice that you are prohibited from doing
people will still go there.
It's either they can read. I find it to be very troubling. And I really think that one way or the other, the rules of engagement have to be very carefully looked at.
That's MP for Anyasotum, Dixon Adumakukisi. Let's head to Parliament now to get the latest on the processes for the Natural Resources Minister to provide more information on this matter. Our correspondent, Kwekwa Sante, joins us with more. Joseph, has this urgent question by MP for, I beg your pardon, Kweku, has this urgent question by MP for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhini, been admitted already?
So because you said Joseph, and so what we know now is that questions have been filed. We don't know yet if it has been admitted by the Speaker. The Speaker of Parliament himself, Alban Badmin, is currently out of the country, and so that question has not been listed. But we can confirm that the urgent question has been transmitted through the minority leadership to the Speaker's office. We expect that by Friday, when the business statement comes, we will know whether or not that urgent question has been admitted. But also knowing how the system works in Parliament, sometimes some urgent questions take longer than usual to be reflected on the other paper. So the Speaker of Parliament may admit it, but it could take a week or two before it will come. But we can confirm that the Speaker of Parliament is in receipt of that urgent question from Alhassan Suhini.
Quickly update us on the committee's report and what more is happening on the floor.
Well, so that committee report has not come. The Committee of the Lands and Forestry, their report has not come. But yesterday we reported that the House had to adjourn because of the lack of quorum. And the quorum number for decision making is 138. And the quorum for ordinary sitting is 92. Yesterday, the House did not have up to 92 MPs. The House had to be forced to adjourn. But today's order paper showed that there were more than 200 MPs present. The Deputy Speaker, who has been speaking, has been asking questions. Why is it that the House did not have a quorum to sit? But on the other paper, you have 201 MPs who have signed as present. And so these are questions that have come up. Today, I've counted the numbers on both sides. It's still not up to 92, but no issue of quorum has been raised.
Thank you very much, Bismarck Kuku Asante, giving us the details from Parliament. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Bernice Abubedu Lansa. Still to come, deaths, hanging homes, unbearable traffic and bad roads. The troubles residents of New Botiano have to endure as the rains continue to pour trauma on them.
It's very, very dangerous. When the rain is falling, hard one or heavy one, the floor.
What if someone comes to remove the ladder one day?
Then I will stay here till when I get a new ladder.
Thanks for staying here on the Midday News, and Mubarak Aruna is here with the latest from the world of sports.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's now 3 games in, 1 win, 2 draws. That's the record of head coach of the Black Stars, Chris Hughton. But it seems the FA is not content. They are demanding a massive improvement in the upcoming AFCON qualifier against Central African Republic in September. Here is Executive Council member Randy Abbey.
We think that there's a lot of work to be done. Well, because we have a lot of expectations about Chris Hughton and his team made up of Dudu Dramani and Boateng, and Ole. And we believe that based on the fact that they've been around the team for a while and all that, they could hit the ground running. We're not too happy. We think that there has to be a lot of improvements. It's pretty obvious that there are a lot of improvements that have to be made, and we also don't have all the time in the world, so we need to be acting faster.
Randy Abbey is the Executive Council member of the GFA. Back to you, Benis.
Thank you, Mubarak Aruna, and I like the way you were smiling when I mentioned your name. I didn't have to mess it up. Well, imagine living in a house you can only access with a ladder. That's the situation of 25-year-old Nanayao Wisdom Ishan. But his situation only mirrors what residents of New Botiano have to endure as a result of annual floods. Hanging homes caused by torrential rains, children killed by floods, and bad roads are just some of the troubles they have to endure anytime it rains. Maxwell Agbagba has more in our latest Floods of Trauma series.
It is March 2023. Flood water has forced the collapse of a building here at New Botiano. 2 children, 9 and 11 years, were swept away. They died. Their mother, Nanama, sits on the floor inconsolable after the disaster. After the collapse of the building, Nanama relocated from New Botiano. She never wanted to have anything to do with this community again. I've met 18-year-old Ransford Ebenezer Chum. The 2 children were his friends. He says he was traumatized for days.
The flood water first caused the collapse of their building. The water swept away one of them, and the other one tried to rescue her, but the 2 died.
Not too far from Naname's house is another house which is virtually hanging.
How long have you been staying here?
I'm staying here for 2
I've
years.
met the man who lives here, Nanayao Ishen. He says the only way to access his residence is with the help of a ladder which sits about 10 feet deep into the belly of the earth.
It's very, very dangerous. When the rain is falling, hard one or heavy one, and you come and stand here, the floor, there is very huge rain passes through here. It's very, very dangerous. I don't have any other place. Now, without the ladder, I won't come out. I can't come out.
What if someone comes to remove the ladder one day?
Then I will stay here till when I get a new ladder.
Maxwell Agbagba with that report. In a related development, the Ashanti region has recorded 9 deaths from 581 fire incidents in the first half of this year alone. Poor adherence to basic fire measures is a major attribute to the recent fire incidents. Nana Boachi Yadom reports on measures that have been put in place to control fire in the region.
The latest fire incident in the Ashanti region recorded in June were both domestic cases. 2 bedrooms and several properties were gutted in a building at Atonsobokro. The second incident at Tafo Pankrono had a fire sweeping through a 5-bedroom apartment and displaced occupants of the house. Mechanics at Asokwa were saved by firefighters and the rains when their shops gutted fire. Ashanti Regional Public Relations Officer of the Fire Service, DO3 Peter Ade, says a total of 581 fire incidents were recorded in the first half of the year. This is an improvement over the 700 cases recorded in the same period last year.
If you compare 2023 to 2022 figures, has reduced by about 17%. So by close of by close of June 2023, we had recorded 581 fires as compared to 700 same period 2022. So we realized that we've been able to reduce the fires by 119 fires, which is about 17% if you compare the 2 years. So significantly, we have reduced the fires.
Love FM's Nana Boachi Yadom with that report. And before we go, musician Patapa is out with a new song, Ajita. He's been explaining what it means.
You have a new song, Ajita. And also, I say, thank you, Ajita. Ajita, Nakamachi didn't bow out. America say, I dare warrior and for semi, say, me fair channel, nay, Yamakumim. It's Ajita. Sakwaden and a wife washes Shawonka Kankana, the one more money. It's ya, Eddie T. Once, ya. Andy, are you getting me? No, I'm not getting you. You have to get me. At Eddie Tanade, La Pue. It's whatever you do. Papa, Bonnie, all the forces, who actually pass on you say, no, you're Ebedita. So, watch now, oh, Reno, I won't know, only say, Ebedita.
Musician Patapa explaining to Andy Dusty of Hits FM what his latest song Ajita means, basically saying that whatever you do, remember that it will blow out one day. Thanks for joining me on this edition of the Midday News. It's sponsored by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. Our top story: NPP National Council of Elders assures of addressing concerns of all flag bearer aspirants, as well as ensure an equal playing field ahead of the upcoming Super Delegates Congress as it holds a crunch meeting this afternoon. Stay with us. We are your election headquarters. We'll bring you details. There is more news, however, when you log on to myjoyonline.com, including Landguard Jato has his setup within judiciary and media. Lands Ministry's chief director leaked